Good morning. Thank you for joining us. I am delighted to be joined here today by Kathy. Booz Allen has a 75-year history with the Department of Defense, and about 1/3 of our population is affiliated with the military in some way, either veterans or military families. And so, Kathy, in your role as the CEO of Blue Star Families, um, can you tell us what are the challenges being faced by Blue Star families today?
Thanks so much for having us here today, Nancy, and we're really excited to be part of the Power of Purpose conference. Blue Star Families represents the currently serving military. That's active duty, Guard, and Reserve, wounded and transitioning service members and their families. Our mission is to tell their story and to create solutions in communities where they live. We have to tell the story because actually today people don't know it.
What is the story?
So things have changed for our military. Many people have a picture in their mind of a young man with stubble and a cigarette, out in Germany. And that was what our military was. Once upon a time, we created a standing army for our country, and that was for the Cold War. And in that military, mostly young men served for a short period of time in garrison to stand down this global threat. And that was what it continued to be during most of the 20th century. In the 40s and 50s, only 10% of our military was married. It was almost all men. Even when we became an all-volunteer force, only 25% were married. And those who were lived on bases. They trained there. They had support in terms of clubs and coffees. Most mothers didn't work. And it was fairly stable. Then one day, the Cold War ended. We downsized. We moved everyone into communities where they now live. In larger society, women started needing to work in order for families to meet their dreams. And then once 9/11 happened, we suddenly expanded the missions, not the military, but we expanded the missions. They were more complicated. People served for 8 to 11 years. So now 80% of our military, past an initial tour of duty, are married and have children. They don't live on base. They live in our communities. They're more deployed than ever before. 200,000 people in 177 countries every day. The spouses need to work, but they can't. 20% unemployment because of the moving. And even those who do work are really underemployed. So these military families who are doing so much for our country are in our communities. They're isolated. Their struggles are greater than they need to be. And this is what Blue Star Families' role is to create community and solutions where they live. And do it with the help of Booz Allen and with people like this in the room and with regular neighbors.
So that change, it's a huge workforce transformation. You said they're isolated. So how can we get them into the communities? What help do they need?
It's something that we thought about a lot because when Blue Star Families started, it was members of military families themselves. My own husband served 30 years in the Marine Corps.
I should say, November is Military Appreciation Month, so thank you for your service as well.
Thank you. We thought, we're having a hard time here. It's a long war. We're having these repeated deployments, and we're trying to keep our families together. What can we do to help our community? We started by polling. Data is so important. And we found out the isolation families were facing. We found out the economic struggles that they were facing. In some ways, we asked why, because these are folks who, after all, are married. One person has a job. We're more educated and more credentialed than our civilian counterparts. But it's because we keep breaking our ties. Every time you move, and I don't know if people in this room have ever experienced a move with their family as an adult, it's challenging. You have to reintegrate in that community. And when it happens every 1, 2, or 3 years over and over again, the natural ways that you solve your problems get broken. So we need to recreate that in the communities where people live with the right partners and with the right kind of programs. Blue Star Families does that with a neighbors program where we invite people in to make those connections and to constantly measure to see if what we're doing makes any difference.
So we heard earlier this morning that the role of an NGO or a corporation really is being addressed and is changing. And I know a lot of private enterprises are looking at changing their corporate social responsibility models. As they're doing that, how can that help with the Blue Star Families? I know that we have, within the last 2 years, actually changed our mission and vision. Our mission is to empower people to change the world. So how do we change a Blue Star Families world? How can we help?
Right. So one way that Booz Allen has helped us is in partnership. You guys are great at data analysis. Data is really important to us. I'm an attorney. I worked in the private sector before. I don't need to do this unless I'm solving problems. I can't know if I'm solving the problems unless I'm working with data. So we do extensive surveying, but Booz Allen helps us with a lot of the data mining so we can understand even better. As we develop chapters in communities and we have teams to better effectuate change in those communities, Booz Allen is helping us with doing the training for those teams so we can have the best quality training so that we can get the best possible results. And then also, what are our needs and assessments? Companies such as Booz Allen has expertise in that. I'm a big fan of finding the best people that there are in doing certain things and applying their solutions to the need at hand. There might be, what Blue Star Families is experts at is knowing what the problems are and finding out if the solutions feel right, that human-centered design. But there are always going to be others who have expertise that we need to pull in. And I think that's where you make a lot of difference. Funding is terrific, but that real partnership, that deep partnership takes it even farther.
So what are, in other industries, there are other companies that are out there that are helping you. I know you had mentioned that Starbucks has donated space to you.
Right.
You know, we represent all industries here. What else would you like to see? What are the trends that people are trying to do?
Sure. There are military-connected people in every zip code in America. Chances are, in your home, there's someone who's connected to the active duty guard and reserve. They're experiencing multiple deployments. They're having challenges. There are families that are alone at the holidays. There are all kinds of things. We have a fantastic partnership with Starbucks where they've dedicated 100 of their stores to being military family stores. And we do our events at those Starbucks. And that's a place where people can meet their neighbors, feel like they're a member of their community. That's a really terrific thing. Disney has a terrific partnership with us where we give books to military kids, free books in a big book fair. Reading increases coping skills. And when you move frequently and your education gets disrupted, being a reader can really help you get past that. When my daughter entered 10th grade, she was entering her 10th school. That's a really challenging thing. But if you're a reader, that can get you through a lot of those changes. So what our motto is that really pretty much anything people have to give is a point of connection, a point of human connection, and something that we can receive. We have a wonderful program where celebrity chefs cook with military chefs. And that's a fantastic coming together. And what we find is that the people who engage with us on these levels really are so happy to do it. Because our community, while we're struggling a lot, we're actually pretty motivated by our mission. And we're pretty proud to be serving. And when people can enter that circle, I think we can share that pride of service together, and that makes a connection for our country.
So you had mentioned also that the majority of people who are home are women,
right.
Taking care of families, and you'd also mentioned that they're more credentialed. So I imagine hiring is a big issue. How do we find these?
So that's a top concern for our families. Military families say that they have economic insecurity, and it's not because there's a problem with military salaries. They're actually pretty much on par with civilian salaries. But people experience household income, not just a single person's income. Most military spouses are not working, not out of their choice. Most who are working make less than $20,000 a year. We have lawyers, we have people with cybersecurity degrees, we have people who have public administration degrees. So it's really crippling for families. That's why Blue Star Families created a platform called Spouse Force, where spouses can put on their experience, their education, their credentials, but also the conditions under which they need to work. The reason we're unemployed is not just the moving, but because of the moving, we need remote work or flexible hours, because sometimes the military mission makes life very challenging. One time I had 1 week's notice that my husband was going to deploy for a year. I had an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old at the time. So when you've got 1 week to know that your partner's going to be gone for a year, you can't hold down a regular job. So we need that kind of flexibility sometimes, or gig employment. We put this all together in a platform, and you can see the talent there and also how you might need to make adjustments for those folks. 12% of the people on our platform have security clearances. So I have a great example about how this platform works. We had an outstanding woman on the platform. She had a cybersecurity degree, a law degree from another country. Her husband was a wounded warrior. Jimmy got blown up in about his 5th deployment to Iraq. So she had to be home 3 days in the afternoon to transfer him from his education program to home. 3 years she was unemployed, and this was a lot of struggle for their family. But she, very talented, cybersecurity degrees. We paired her up with Booz Allen. You all actually are really looking to hire people with those cybersecurity backgrounds and the kind of talent. And you were able to structure the job for Pat so that she has now been working for you for 3 months.
That's great. Well, we're delighted to help. If any of you would like to find out more about how to help, reach out to Kathy or stop by at our booth back there. We would love to put you together. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.